let's get into it, is the challenges that you're facing with the Middle East.
There's probably a little bit more to it than what people realise.
The Suez Canal was closed, the Houthi attacks.
The Suez was not a safe place, and they will not risk either piracy or damage to the vessels. It was a bit of a shock to the supply chain.
Yeah, it was.
To add in that extra 2 weeks unexpectedly.
Why would anyone go back to the Suez?
So if you're adding 20 days onto that transit time, you're adding on a big chunk of additional cost. The industry's evolved massively.
Will costs come down?
No. Look, the cost of the fuel has been exponentially increased, literally within 2 weeks.
Now we're looking at sort of placing orders for delivery in sort of June, July sort of time, really.
I think potentially it could be a game changer. Goes from Shanghai to Barking.
From China to Felixstowe in 18 days. That is a game changer.
No, absolutely. The DNA of where your products come from. So on every invoice that we raise to Greenbrook, there is a CO2 figure reported to you.
Right. Have you ever lost a container at sea?
Yes.
And what happens?
It's a choice of either you do ship or you don't ship.
Welcome to Greenbrook's Perfect Contact podcast. I want to introduce Kevin from Ziegler as the General Manager of Ziegler. Welcome to the
Thanks for having
podcast. Quite apt at the moment. We're talking about shipping, which I guess obviously is quite topical.
Very.
So first of all, how did you get into shipping?
Well, in 1989, nobody else would offer me a job. And I was offered a position as a YTS at the time. So thought I would do that for a couple of years. And 38 years later, I'm still doing it. A little bit like the mafia. Once you're in, you can't get out. But so
like the electrical industry.
Yeah, possibly the same. But it's So 1989, worked for a small French company for several years. Then set up in partnership our own business, our own freight forwarding business. And then in 2009, there was another economic crash and took the sanctuary of Ziegler again.
Yeah.
A little bit in mind, thinking to myself, I'll work here for a couple of years and move on. 17 years later, I'm still there. So here we are today.
It's good. And of course we use Ziegler, and obviously I know Ziegler are a very professional company that we use. But I mean, from my perspective is, if you tell me a bit about Ziegler, obviously, but we obviously we do a lot of shipping, we obviously bring in a lot of containers, but I think we don't really know from an industry perspective, what is the process of getting containers from China or from the Far East, from other ports to the UK. So tell me a bit about that, the sort of complexities.
Yeah, there's probably a little bit more to it than what people realise. These days there's a lot of bureaucracy with paperwork, documentation, origin and destination in the UK especially, and that can range from customs documentation through to health and safety, trading standards especially. They're very, very hot on that sort of thing. But our primary role when we act on importers' behalf, such as Greenbrook, is to provide to you almost an in-house feel that we're part of Greenbrook, if you like. We're your shipping department for Greenbrook. So you would say to us, okay, we've got a shipment coming from supplier XYZ.
Yeah.
Cargo's going to be ready on a particular date. We'll coordinate that with our offices in China primarily. And then they would contact your supplier, set up for when the container gets placed at their depot for loading the products. There's checks made, there's photographs taken of everything that we load into containers, so we give you that reassurance if there was an issue along the line that we've got that to show to you.
Yeah.
Get shipped on board the container vessel and arrives in the UK. Recently it's been a little bit more complicated with some deviations in routings due to geopolitical things.
We'll come on to that because
we'll move on to that. That's a bit of a subject. Yeah, exactly. And And then once it arrives in the UK, we carry out the customs clearance.
Yeah.
So there still are a lot of customs formalities that your cargo has to go through. So we have to put together a declaration to customs. Some details on that is what the product is.
Yeah.
It's classified with a commodity code so that we can make sure that you're paying the correct amount of duty.
Yeah.
You don't want to be paying too much duty.
No, definitely don't want to be paying too much duty.
And you definitely don't want to be underpaying the duty, because otherwise customs will eventually one day catch up with you. Once it's customs cleared, we arrange for the container to be picked up from the port, loaded onto a vehicle and delivered to your door.
So on commodity codes, because that's just one of the things I was talking about the other day with someone, because I obviously see the percentages that we add on as to the product. But when you got like a mixture of products, so who provides it? Do we get the commodity codes from HMRC, or is that from who gives us the commodity codes?
So you provide to us the commodity codes that we should use, because you have them classified within Greenbrook.
Yeah.
So ordinarily what you would do if you've got a new product that's coming online that is a little bit diverse from what you've done before, then my recommendation to you and anybody would be to send that product to customs for an official ruling.
Oh, okay, right.
So you send the product away, because there is a little bit of a degree of interpretation on certain products that contain different elements. So if you've got a lamp, for example, and the bulbs within the lamp, is it a lamp? Is it a bulb? Is it a light fitting? There are some, or does it come under its constituent material? Metal, wood, plastic, whatever.
I don't know how many people actually send stuff off, to be honest. I know, so we look at stuff, but I mean, from our perspective, I think we sort of like, sometimes you get like, we bring in a lot of ladders, and it's pretty 50-50 on fiberglass and aluminium. So it's just, where does it sit in those sort of things, really? So, I mean, from our perspective, the big thing at the moment, obviously, let's get into it, is the challenges that you're facing with the Middle East. Obviously, that's made it worse. But obviously, if we go back from before that, sort of 18 months ago, the Suez Canal was closed, the Houthi attacks, all those sort of things. So let's go back there and let's look at from where we were then. And obviously, we'll come to where we are now. But is there anything going through the Suez Canal at the moment? Or is there any signs of it ever opening up?
Well, okay, so from the initial point of the Houthis starting to attack the ships, shipping lines decided to reroute the vessels via the Cape of Good Hope.
Yeah.
The Suez was not a safe place, and they will not risk either piracy or damage to the vessels, which can be quite easily catastrophic.
I saw the ones, saw it when it was going on.
Yeah, from an insurance perspective, the vessels are obviously multi-million-pound pieces of equipment. The products on board are multiple millions again, if not billions of pounds worth of products, so they simply won't risk it. Towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year, things started to ease off a little bit and were looking much brighter. So some shipping lines were running some services through the Suez again. Yeah. But they were being kept very low key. Yeah. They weren't being advertised simply because they didn't want to bring awareness to pirates and whatever else to say, look, we're going there again. So some vessels were chartering the Suez again, but from recent events, that's come to a full standstill again. Right. All vessels, all commercial shipping container vessels are diverting through the Cape of Good Hope again.
Yeah, because literally, if I went back before I went to Thailand, because obviously it all kicked off when I was in Thailand, and I was talking to Jonathan, who's my operations director, and he was saying, literally was telling me, they're talking about opening up the Suez Canal again. Yeah. And he was talking about literally maybe a month to 2 months' time, or they're going to try a run through. And then, of course, it all kicked off with the Middle East and obviously with Iran. So I'm just going back to sort of things, how that impacts if you take a ship around the Cape of Good Hope with timing, because obviously the Suez was 4 weeks, I guess, 4 weeks shipping time. How long does it add to go around South Africa?
Approximately, it's adding on about 2 weeks additional transit times. The good thing with the current unrest is that people have adjusted their schedules.
Yeah.
So adjusted their purchasing to accommodate for that already.
Yeah.
Whereas when the Suez had its initial problem, it was a bit of a shock to the supply chain.
Yeah, it was.
To add in that extra 2 weeks unexpectedly. But now the industry's adapted, and because it wasn't a general thing of going back to the Suez, it's pretty much carrying on as normal. It's just a few vessels that needed to be diverted or finish off running the risk of the Suez.
Yeah.
But that's,
Because I asked Jonathan, I think I mentioned it to you before when we last spoke, is if everyone's used to going around South Africa now, and I guess, I think it's international waters, you don't pay money to go around South Africa unless you dock there.
No.
So why would anyone go back to the Suez? If everyone's comfortable with the timelines, and obviously I don't know the exact additional cost of going around South Africa, but I'm guessing if you open the Suez and it costs how much does it cost for a ship to go through the Suez Canal?
I don't know the cost for the Suez, but what I do know is that if your bunkerage, your fuel for a vessel, is $150,000 a day.
Okay.
So if you're adding 20 days onto that transit time, you're adding on a big chunk of additional cost through fuel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the main reasons they will look to go through the Suez, because it cuts the transit time down.
Right.
And also the cost. Simply put, the cost.
Yeah, because obviously at the moment, because I was reading about fuel as well, because obviously what they were saying was the fuel they use in the Far East, they have to use a different fuel when they get to European waters. That can't be true, right?
No, they use what they call low sulfur fuel.
Right.
So again, another topic that maybe we'll move on to with sustainability and carbon emissions.
Yeah.
A number of years ago, shipping lines introduced some measures to try and reduce their carbon footprint. One of those was slow steaming, so they'd slow the vessel down by a number of knots, which can make a significant difference to emissions and a significant difference to cost. They fitted scrubbers into their exhaust systems, so that takes a lot of the bad stuff out of the emissions. And they also started to fill the vessels with low sulfur fuel.
Right.
Low sulfur fuel, because it goes under extra treatment, is also more expensive than regular fuel. So it's a bit of a payoff between carbon emissions and cost. But then, as you'll be completely aware of, any of the extra costs that they introduce generally get passed down the line.
No. Why?
Which I know you enjoy so much to hear about.
And I mean, I think I will come on to it when we talk about cost, because I know that I'm concerned, the geopolitical impact of what's happening, obviously, with regards to costs that impacts us, that impacts the costs of what we sell goods at, and obviously the supply chain all the way through to the contractor and obviously the end user. But from my perspective is, so you talk about, because we have, we're EcoVadis, so we do a lot of things from a sustainability level, and obviously we're trying to constantly keep up to date to move all those things forward so that we're much more efficient on sustainability. That ultra low sulfur fuel, did they use that from the get-go, from China?
Yeah.
They don't have to refuel or anything?
No.
Okay.
I would say that's a red herring, that the bunkerage that they receive on that vessel will be low sulfur fuel. And what they've done, the older vessels that, a little bit like when they phased out leaded fuel through to unleaded, there were older vessels that wouldn't be able to accept the low sulfur fuel.
Right.
But the new vessels that have come on stream, that are the main carriers from Far East, backwards and forwards, they are the newer vessels, more efficient, and they're able to take the low sulfur fuel. So that, I would say that the likelihood is that they wouldn't actually accept the old type of fuel.
Right. Okay. So with regards, so how many? just container wise. So how many containers? I saw a ship when I went to Foodstow, but how many containers are on that ship?
Right,
So big ships.
Okay, so
That's what we want to know.
I'll give you a little bit of a very brief potted history. Back in 2000, the industry's evolved massively within the past 26 years. Back in the year of 2000, the largest vessel was classed as an 8,000 TEU. So TEU, for people that might be listening or watching that don't know what that is, that's 20-foot equivalent unit. So 8,000 TEUs is equivalent to 4,000 40-foot containers.
Right.
So if you visualise a 40-foot container when you drive past it on the road, they're enormous anyway. So currently, 26 years later, we're up to just short of 24,000 TEU per vessel.
Right.
So it's 3 times as much as where it was in 2000, which 24,000 is equivalent to 12,000 40-foot containers, which is a big ship. And we seem to have gone through, as I say, a bit of an evolution where, people want to build the tallest skyscraper by adding on a few extra feet every time. The shipping lines seem to have got into this race mentality that they want to have the biggest TEU carrying ship. So they'll add an extra few feet on the side of the vessel to have them overhanging in certain parts.
Right.
So they've squeezed an extra couple of containers on it to say we're the
shipping
line with the biggest capacity vessels.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, because obviously, what we want to do at Greenwood is, my thing is, I spend a lot of money on obviously shipping and obviously quite a lot with the carriers and those sort of things. So obviously, I want to try and be as efficient as possible. And obviously, I think we've looked at other routes as well. So I know that you've got, obviously, at the moment, when the Suez opens, will costs come down? Guessing they must do.
They should do. Logic says that it will, but without wanting to demonise the shipping lines will always try to maintain their profit levels. In COVID times, their profit levels went to levels beyond their wildest dreams.
Yeah, tell me about it.
You'll remember how much you were paying.
I do remember exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
So like any business, they've got board members, shareholders that look at their balance sheet and want to revisit those COVID numbers.
Yeah.
So any opportunity, let's call it, maybe there's a better word for opportunity, but any circumstances that present themselves for them to increase the freight rates and maintain those freight rates at that level, they will use.
The COVID numbers were extreme beyond belief. And I think the most we paid, I go back to what really caused a lot of issues in the early days, was we paid, and I guess it would have been with you guys, is $18,000 to $20,000 for one container, I think.
Yes, it was.
And I remember that December 21 or 2020 when we had a $330,000 freight bill for 1 month of freight.
Yeah.
Now, in hindsight, we should have done things differently, but turn back time. But I just think about to get to those levels again would be, I just don't know if we could all stand it. And I don't think in at that time we were always, I think we know now what it was like then. And I think given the situation, if that ever occurs again, where freight goes at that level, we would have to literally pass it on immediately. Whereas we took our time. We wanted to just try and support our wholesalers. We did a lot of support to the wholesaler. We're trying to keep it as low as possible. We didn't have the price increases that we should have done. No business can do that again. I don't think so. And I don't know if the shipping companies are thinking about getting back to those levels again. But I don't think anyone could cope with that again.
I think if I was a betting man, I would say no. I don't think they will return to those levels. I've been wrong before, but I just can't see how they can justify it, because some of the diversion fees that were incurred for the original problem of the Suez were already implemented. That's already there. So the only thing they can really introduce at the moment, as I see it, would be an emergency bunker charge, which is the emergency fuel surcharge on the
Which
vessels.
they've done that, haven't they?
They've started to, certain lines have started to introduce it, not all of them, but usually once one shipping line or two introduce that, the others look at it and think, we need to do that as well.
Yeah, people know. I was in a meeting yesterday and someone was talking about this 10% Maersk increase then, and that was yesterday with a customer. I know they import as well, but it was just literally we were talking about it. So it is happening, and obviously I know that we've got it at the moment. We're not passing it on at the moment, but it will come to the stage where I'm sure people will start to see price increases. They have to, because we can't sustain those levels of increases.
No. Look, the cost of the fuel has been exponentially increased, literally within 2 weeks. The volatility there. We've had to start passing on the increases because our hauliers that buy fuel for their trucks, they're in the same sort of situation. So we find it really hard to pass on any increases because we are a little bit of stuck in the middle. We're customer facing, so ultimately we, like yourselves, you're the customer. We always are the bearer of bad tidings to you. Which is part of the job. Not always easy, but we hope that as soon as the situation becomes possible for us to remove the surcharges, then we'll do that, which is why we try to break them out so they're separated for you to see clearly that it's not something that can just carry on forevermore. If things settle down, the cost of oil drops again, then that will be taken away.
But we can't control that, can we?
Absolutely not.
So, we've all just got to make sure that we are in sort of, I guess, being proactive, looking at those costs and making sure that we're managing that along the line. But, for us, it's just, it always seems to be like there's one, I know that the shipping companies always like this one thing. You had the issues with the Suez, then you had the ship that got stuck in the Suez.
Yes.
So from our perspective, I guess the whole point of this is to really look at, people who are watching this will look at the costs of bringing goods over from the Far East. And that's the thing that will obviously hit people the most because, we're talking about the electrical industry at the moment, but it's not just that, is it? It's everything that we, the cost of every single thing, of every single person looking at things coming over from the Far East.
No, that's it. And as a freight forwarder like Ziegler, you're quite right, we don't just deal with electrical products like we do with Greenbrook. It can be foodstuffs. Herbs, spices is one of our kind of main customers, if you like.
Right.
And we're as diverse of fireworks. It's something that we handle multiple different types of product, and the value to the cost of the goods and the retail side of things does depend on the cost of the goods. So the value, how much you can get into a container. Some people might view electrical products as maybe not high-end goods, but the value can be a little bit more expensive than, say, raw materials, herbs and spices. So it does really depend on what you are importing of cost per piece, which is generally what people do with yourselves. If you pro-rated out a cost of a whole container of sockets, for example, it might work out £1 extra or something. It's
of course, absolutely. I don't want to be shipping trampolines right at this moment in time.
No, absolutely.
So from that side of things, but I guess so. How do you manage? Obviously, because I'm your customer. Obviously, we buy from you. How do you manage trying to keep the cost down for us? Do you look at different shipping agents? Do you have all these access to different ones? So
what we do, we work with a partner in the Far East, in particular, that has a very high volume from the Far East to UK and Europe. So you can probably relate this to most businesses, and especially yours. If you've got a customer that's buying 300 sockets in a year, or you've got a customer that's buying 30,000 sockets in a year, clearly the person buying the 30,000 sockets is going to have the better deal, you would think. So similarly to us, we work with a partner that ships 280,000 TEU.
Wow.
From the Far East to UK and Europe. Now, jumping on the back of that, that enables us not only to be able to secure competitive freight rates, it also gives us an into the market of various different shipping lines. So we don't pin all of our cargo with one particular carrier, one particular shipping line. We've got a spread of carriers that we work with that keeps them honest to a degree. That if we just worked with one, then they could possibly put the rates up and we wouldn't know, but have fingers on the pulse with the market. And then also it gives us flexibility for vessels sailing. So if one hasn't got space on a particular ship, 3 days later we've got access to another vessel that would be sailing.
Right. Okay. So that's good, because obviously we're just trying to do everything that we can to sort of get the containers at the best price we can. And obviously, I know that we tried. For me, it's time. I know we sort of used to the 6 to 7 week sort of shipping time at the moment, but when you add on, you've got to get it when it's made. It's got to get to the port. It's a shit, and it's now we're looking at sort of placing orders for delivery in sort of June, July sort of time, really. And that's the challenge for me, is to try and get goods as quickly as possible. Now, I'm always keen to sort of look outside the box, and I know that last year we used a ship that went round the top of Russia, obviously in the Arctic side of things. Is that a route that is going to look, because that was only 18 to 20 days, I think.
It was 18 days,
which was amazing.
Yeah.
And I know that we tried it and it was fantastic and it worked really, really well. That would be brilliant if we could use that. So is that ever going to be?
I think potentially it could be a game changer.
Yeah.
I think before, when the Suez was starting to see some green shoots of returning to normal, I would have said absolutely not. They tried it, it worked well, but the Suez is functioning again properly. That's not going to happen. But with the current troubles, I think that could be another possibility. It's weather restrictive.
Yeah.
So the seasons between certain months, it's physically not
icy
possible to do. A little bit on the chilly side. So that's not feasible. But again, it's whether the shipping lines are willing to buy into that and go for it again. It was a trial ship that they did it with, a trial routing. I think that people would be very keen to.
I would
to take
be
that
massively
up.
keen.
For me, it's more reliable than the train from China. I don't like the train from China. I'll be honest about that.
So what is it about that? I mean, I as crazy as this sounds, I was up the other morning and there was a BBC, it's like this program BBC right really early, and they were talking about building the Arctic ships, the icebreaker ships. I think they build them in Norway or that sort of area, and they test them out. And there was a massive push. They want to build a lot of these icebreaker ships. Obviously, you know a lot more about than I do. So, what is it about the train that you don't know? Because if they could get that northern side, it is a game changer for me. I know it's only like May to November when we can sail it, but what's bad about the train?
With trains, the main thing with the train is once your container's on that train, it's on the train. It can't deviate. It won't be taken off at another station.
Yeah.
We had a recent situation where it travels from China through Russia, through the Eastern Bloc, as it was. It got to the Polish border, and Russia had flown one of their planes, one of their fighter jets, into Polish airspace.
Oh yeah,
you remember that?
I do recall that. Yeah.
So what the Polish government decided to do was to carry out some military exercises for roughly a week and close the border.
Right.
And the train is stuck at the border. So, as I say, you can't reverse it and then take it somewhere else. Okay, you could say, well, that's the same on a ship.
Yeah.
Once it's on the ship, it's on the ship. But I just think that the visibility of it on the train is not as good as it being on the vessel.
I guess there must be different sizes of track as well. So I'm guessing you got you move it one container to another train to another train to another train. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it will stay on the train the whole way.
The same, but the container must move to another.
No, it stays on the same.
Oh, right, okay.
It stays on the same rail. They may have different engines that transfer it over at different stages, but it goes through multiple hubs where it stays on the same wagon. And then sometimes there's a little bit of confusion that people think that the train goes through the Channel Tunnel or something and arrives in the UK. When they first introduced the train service from China to the UK, they did a publicity stunt, and they had a Chinese train in Barking.
Oh, right.
At the Barking railhead. So a lot of people viewed that on TV, on the BBC or whatever, and were contacting us. Okay, Kev, there's a new train service from China to the UK. It goes from Shanghai to Barking. And well, okay, not exactly.
Get on it.
Not exactly. So, okay, so to finish off the story of the train journey, it will go into Duisburg or Antwerp, and then it has to come off of the train if it's coming to the UK, and then go on a ship.
Yeah.
So you're still reliant on that short sea service, which, depending on how much volume you have, that could be sitting there for a week to be transshipped from Antwerp to the UK. Then you lose the time. Then you've got a difficult conversation with the customer to explain to them the whole process of why it isn't here, which is why I'm not an advocate of.
Do you use the train though? Are you using it at the moment?
We do,
right.
But that is the customer's choice to do that. They're entitled to do that. We offer that service. But if a customer like yourself were to ask me the question, Kev, what do you think about using the train? I would be completely honest and say it's not for me.
Yeah. So, and I guess the cost would be a lot higher on the train.
Yeah. Yeah. In COVID times, I think that they did come into a little bit of alignment between the two. Yeah. But ever kind of after that.
Yeah, we used it once.
Yeah. After that, it's way cheaper now for you to stick with ocean freight.
Yeah. It's that for me. It's that northern side of going that away completely on the one that we trialled last year. That I think we made a note of it, and obviously people were aware of it. But to go from China to Felixstowe in 18 days, that is a game changer.
No, absolutely.
And I would want to use that as much as I could, because the cost wasn't massively higher than going. So for me, that would be. But what's next? Who's thinking about, like, obviously from a shipping side of things? Is there anything new coming down the track? Does people drive from China to Europe? I don't know.
People have done in the past. Again, going back to COVID times, which we tend to do quite a bit. There were people offering trailer services from China by road,
right,
to the UK, simply as a road movement, which when I think of it now sounds like complete madness.
I wouldn't fancy driving it.
I wouldn't fancy it myself, to be honest. I might need a shower in between, but it's to do that, it just doesn't make sense to me. In COVID times, people were so desperate at times to get their product, because otherwise their business was going to fail without it, that they would basically do anything to get the cargo here. That doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
Never say never in our industry, because you just don't know what is going to happen.
No, of course.
The curveballs that have been thrown to us over the past 8 years, I think, are enough to make us realise we just don't know exactly.
But we can't, like I say, we can't control what Donald Trump does and all these sort of people. We can't control any of that. For me, it's just about getting things, right, and obviously keeping as best we can the supply chain going. I'm just keen to know, is the Suez likely to open again? What's the sort of news about that? And obviously, I'm guessing that took a backward step with the recent news. Yeah. But are they saying it might open again in 6 months, a year? I don't know what they're saying.
For me, as I say, at the end of last year, I was saying to people, I think Q1 we'll start to see some movement through it, and they laughed at me, but I was right. They did start to see it, in Q1. But at this moment in time, I think it really is anybody's guess of when it will be, depending on when the troubles stop, die down, however you want to view it. It's anyone's guess. I've no idea on that.
Yeah.
I think that the Houthis will be reactivated, if you like, from where they where they died down. I think that the resources for the US have been diverted somewhat to other matters. So shipping lines, I don't think will want to take the risk. They won't be allowed to take the risk.
No, of course.
From an insurance perspective of going through the Suez.
I mean, I think anything in that area is a bit hypertensioned at the moment. So massively. I think we talk about it as an industry conference in Dubai, and we're not sure whether that will go ahead or not. But obviously, I don't know what it's like in that area at the moment. But obviously, it's the insurance that's the issue. So obviously, if you're traveling on business, there's a different type of insurance that you need. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it'd just be nice to have a bit of normality for a while, and then we can all get used to it. And that's the problem I have. It's just this upheaval of trying to always constantly chop and change to sort of assess what other people are doing. That's my own issue.
I think that our industry does need some more innovation.
Yeah,
and I think that we're trying to learn all of the time from what's happened recently, previously. But again, it will be something that we haven't anticipated, that will be forced upon us, that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
As I think we touched on earlier today when we were chatting, within 2 weeks, shipping lines have started to look at ways of avoiding the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
By putting on a land bridge service from Jeddah through to Dubai. Dubai is heavily reliant on imports, so that's key to keep their supply chain of Heinz tomato ketchup and whatever else they want to import there. But the industry absolutely needs some extra innovation, because when things fall down, they do fall down. It's difficult to overcome that. Geography is one of the things that's a big issue. Maybe we need another canal somewhere in the world that would, settle things down.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. Not in my lifetime. But,
no, definitely not. No. Little plug for Heinz tomato ketchup though. That's quite good. There's some money in for that. That's quite good. So, I think, like I say, I think there will be something that's different. And I think, for me, the investment is in that northern side, because that albeit Russia's a bit of a struggle, but I think going around that side it's just the time. And obviously, if you can go from 8 weeks or 7 weeks to 18 days, that is the one for me. But obviously, you can only sail it May to November. So for me, if that's still going ahead, and that we would want to encourage getting as much on that route as possible, from my perspective.
Yeah, and I think there'll be a lot of people that would agree with you on that. I don't see why not. As I say, it's a good service. It was very reliable when it was in operation. Only one sailing. So
we were on it.
You was on it, yeah, absolutely, on the maiden voyage. So we would do everything to encourage that. I think we would, it would be a real sweet spot for us to get into if that was started again. Yeah,
good. So one of the questions I was going to ask is, obviously it's quite poignant from us in our industry, because we work with, we're quite heavily conscious of standards, safety. We work with BEMA, which is our industry body. We mentioned EcoVadis earlier about sort of the sustainability and making sure we're doing things the right way. Is BEMA for us talk to government, so they talk about legislation and safety, and obviously they feed back to us. And we did a podcast with BEMA as well, with Nick, which was really, really good. So do you speak to government? Because the question obviously with materials, and not just the electrical industry, but if we're talking about the development of building houses, obviously it's a massive housing shortage. We're looking at building new houses in the UK. We're way, way, way behind. Clearly, it's in the government's interest to get materials here as quickly as possible, and obviously so we can keep up to speed with what we're doing. And like I say, we're a long, long way behind. So do you talk to government? Are you getting any support from government about it? Do you have an industry body that does that?
Yeah, we part of as we refer to them, BIFA, which is British International Freight Association.
Okay.
So they're our representative body who would direct any general industry dialogue with government bodies, whether it's the road transport, whether it's HMRC. That's who we would primarily direct it through as an intermediary. As far as support is concerned, unless there's concessions on certain components, with as far as duty and VAT is concerned, you could say that they're supporting businesses with the postponed VAT accounting.
Right.
So that means that you previously would have paid VAT at the time of import, which you'll remember, which can add up to a huge amount of money. So the government implemented PVA, postponed VAT accounting. So that eased the cash flow for businesses.
Still got to pay it though, right?
You still have to account for it. Yeah, you still
Yeah.
have to account for it. But if you're, instead of outlaying huge sums, it's pretty much a paper transaction.
Yeah, of course.
Either way, you owe them or they owe you. So that is really probably the only real concession that we've actually seen in real terms. Certain products have reduced tariffs.
Yeah.
But in the main, the tariff is the tariff, whether it's for a housing development or not for a builder. They're all the same.
Yeah, it's just, and I guess every industry is sensitive to their own needs, but I just think with the construction is always talked about as a real growth driver for the economy, and obviously we haven't grown as a country for a long time. And my view is just BEMA are good at talking to government, obviously supporting us, and we get a lot of information back. And it was just really, what are they saying about? Do they recognise that there's an issue with obviously the increased costs? I know they talk about this 5p increase on fuel duty, which I don't know if that's going to happen.
No.
I know he said he's going to review it again in September, but he didn't say he wasn't going to do it.
But we all look at the cost that we pay at the fuel pump, and we do know that majority of that is tax.
Yeah,
okay? A lot of it is tax. So there's a lot of talk about fuel payments and things like that. Well, to me, looking at it simply, you just think to yourself, if you want to stimulate things, cut out some of the tax on that will then regenerate growth, more people in jobs. It will, it will pay for itself eventually. But as far as our industry is concerned, I'm not going to say it's lawless, but as far as costs are concerned, there isn't any formal government control over those, which I think was kind of seen a little bit. I hate to go on about COVID times again, but we've all seen the negative media talk about PPE. That was yeah.
Mention those 3 letters, something gives me the heebie-jeebies.
No, me too. But yeah, we've all seen the publicity where government jumped in, and there were some unscrupulous people in the market at the time to try and make a quick buck. But yeah, we don't really see, in all honesty, we don't see anything from government to encourage trade at point of entry. I think that's where we would see it, at point of entry into the market, into the UK. We don't see anything like that other than the PVA.
Yeah, okay. All right, it was just really to see if there's any talk that they offer support. I mean, like I said, from our perspective is like I said, with all the things that we have to do, all the legislation that we have to do. And the other thing I was going to mention with regards to, so I don't know if this has found its way to your sector yet, but we obviously spend a lot of money and time with the digital, the basically our products that we bring in with ePIM, with members of eData. We put a lot into the data, and there was a lot of talk in our industry about the golden thread. So the product passports of all the materials that are in that product when you bring it in. And it was just, would that speed up goods? So if you knew that good had this amount of metal, this amount of brass, this amount, all those sort of things coming in, would that speed up goods coming through quicker at the port? I don't know.
Yeah, well, the way that customs work, as I say, we're in partnership with Greenbrook, and Ziegler are AEO accredited, so authorised economic operator.
Right.
So what that means is that we represent you. We've gone through all of the hoops with HMRC to make sure that we're accredited. So that means if we're carrying out the customs clearance on behalf of Greenbrook,
Yeah.
that they know we're AEO approved, therefore we're effectively fast-tracked. So we have to go through checks on a yearly basis, audits, and part of that is they know who we represent. So as we're authorised, if we were to come across a piece of business that seemed a little bit less scrupulous,
Yeah.
then we would clearly flag that to people. Now, that in association to the parts that you've put together with your accreditations, the two work together. So if ever we have an audit and they pick out 3 or 4 shipments for Greenbrook, we've got access to that documentation easily. We keep that on file. We then present that to customs, and it's fine. So the history of the DNA of where your products come from counts massively these days.
Yeah, and we want to make it clear to people who buy our products that they know exactly the path of that product, where it was made, where the item, where it was manufactured, all the bits to where they've bought it. So if there was any issues, we can track it back.
Absolutely.
And the good thing about, I was talking to our technical guy the other day, and the one thing that's really sort of strong for us is we literally don't have hardly any product failures at all, and that's really good because the manufacturers that we work with are very conscious, of making sure they're SEDEX approved. We audit the factories, we do all the right things from that side of things to make sure that the products that customers buy from us, they pretty know they're not going to fail, and that that's been good for a long time. So I'm just trying. The key for me, right, is talking to you is what can we do to get products here as quickly as possible, and that's the thing that obviously from your side you said there might be some innovative things happening. That's the thing that I'm keen on because I've got loads of brilliant ideas of things we could do differently, but they probably just wouldn't work in real terms, really.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, ocean freight is ocean freight, and it's going to be ocean freight for a long time.
Yeah.
Whether it's a case of faster vessels, more efficient vessels, e-vessels, because e-vessels do exist, but not.
I was going to ask about that. I just didn't know if they did exist or not.
Yeah, not for the mainstream containerized services at the moment, but again, maybe not in my lifetime. I think that will be part of the evolution of where the shipping lines go in their journey of reducing their footprint, their CO2 footprint. With regards to the final mile in the UK, we've all seen EV is the way forward in certain areas. Whether it's vehicle, cars, or whether that's trucks. I think trucks will be down the line.
Do you have a lot of electric trucks?
In Europe, we do have some EV trucks that were introduced, Mercedes EV trucks. In Belgium, there's a crew of men on bikes with trailers that we've implemented to, fly the green flag, if you like.
Okay.
To say, look, we're thinking of different things, which, it's only a grain of sand in the desert of things that we could do.
Yeah.
But that's certainly something that we're exploring. We take sustainability as we have to these days, not just for our own business interests. We have to take sustainability reporting for our customers. It's a demand.
Do you measure it then? Do you measure this?
Yeah, we do.
So what does Ziegler do? Because obviously I kind of know what we do, because obviously it's a lot of like moving parts. We've got sustainability, the chap at Greenbrook who manages all our. So what does Ziegler do from sustainability? What pressures are you under?
Well, primary pressure is reporting of the numbers. That's what people want to see. Reporting of the numbers are measured in 3 parts, and that's the movement from the factory to the port of origin, from the port of origin to the arrival in the UK, and then from the port of arrival through to your door.
Right.
That's the element that we monitor and report. So on every invoice that we raise to Greenbrook, there is a CO2 figure reported to you.
Right.
On every single invoice, which there's variance in it depending on the route that it's taken, the weight of the container, if it's a smaller shipment, the size of the shipment. So we also have to produce a corporate sustainability report, which is quite handy there. So that's the report for 2025. Must add on recycled paper as well. so
that's good. That's good.
It is. Look, there's a lot of information, and that is what you know. Greenbrook are not on their own in asking for that information. So we've got a sustainability manager within Ziegler Felixstowe that takes care of the reporting side of things. But you know, it can be a little bit eye opening when you start to look at the numbers of CO2. Good or bad, but so we do try to work to reduce the CO2 wherever we can with cargo. So by consolidating cargo into a container, for example, if you send a container that's half full, then that's bad news, not only from a cost per package perspective, but from a CO2 perspective, you've got 50% of the container that you would effectively got for free. And the same on this side, if we've got 2 shipments that have arrived at the same time and we can deliver them to you at Harlow at the same time, then that's cutting down 100% of a journey.
Of course.
So we're conscious of that, but again, technology and innovation is still, I think, at the early days of where it will end up.
Okay, that's good. And what about, stupid question here, but have you ever lost a container at sea?
Yes.
And what happens?
When we say lost at sea,
was it falling off a boat?
No, the one I'm thinking of caught fire.
Oh, right.
The vessel caught fire, and it took a number of days to establish that it was a container of ours, and it was a container of bonsai trees. Oh, right. So that an expensive, God bless them, but it was bonsai trees.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there's like a reporting thing, because I know the containers are not strapped down, are they?
They're interlinked by metal bars.
Right. Okay.
But as you see, if you look online, once the vessel tilts to a certain degree, you will lose containers. But thankfully, touching wood, there's been no lost containers overboard.
It
does happen.
No, I've seen it on Instagram, but I don't know if they're real or AI. So
you have to treat those with some skepticism. There was a slight anecdotal story. You might remember Richard Branson doing his speedboat races from.
Yes, I do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And one of the ones that crashed, or the one that crashed, it's alleged that he hit a sea freight container.
Oh, right.
Because they're a little bit like an iceberg, where they should be watertight. They can lurk under the surface or just above the surface that you can't see, and they will float for years.
Float?
They'll float. Yeah,
wow.
Depending on what's in there. I think so the story was he hit a sea freight container, and you might have seen another one of some rubber ducks. Is the famous one as well?
I didn't know about that.
There was a container of rubber ducks that went overboard, and these rubber ducks charted the world.
Sure, they were rubber ducks and not just normal ducks. They just decided to make
bright
a break.
Yellow,
they made a break for it.
Yeah, bright yellow rubber ducks floating around the world.
Wow.
So it does happen. Neither of those were, I must hasten to add, neither of those were our containers.
Of all the containers, though, it would be rubber ducks.
Yeah, perfect combination.
So just to mention AI, so Is that something that Ziegler look at with AI? I mean, we obviously it's something you have to mention, given that it's going to take over our lives. But is that something that you use for AI? Is that something Ziegler are thinking about?
It's something that I'm very conscious of. It's something that may evolve in time. But as it stands at the moment, there are some freight forwarders that you would class as e-freight forwarders. And they operate and sell it on the basis of being an AI business. So there's a front screen where you can go in and make your bookings.
Right.
They get activated in the similar process that we started at the beginning. But actually in the background, there is a team of people that are still working on that.
Yeah.
To me, that's a faceless way of doing things. Because the relationship that we have with Greenbrook, that if we need to discuss something, you can pick up the phone, speak to me, speak to somebody in the office, and they will help you. Something that's a little bit different. And for me personally, I don't think that you can get that from an AI e-service. I think there are ways of perhaps streamlining businesses, and in our industry, it's not at that point yet that I can pinpoint it and say, yep, that would be a great idea to automate that. There's too many moving parts. Still too many manual processes, physical paper, despite our efforts for sustainability and reducing carbon footprint. Physical paperwork is still a big thing within our industry. You see it with bills of lading from your suppliers that we still have to take from you to release the cargo to you. So I think for me, again, that's a way off. I like the fact that we offer a service that you have faces that you can talk to. We'll have meetings, good or bad. If there's an issue or something, we can always talk. But it's part of the industry that has started to head down the route of AI or automation or online, that's become a little bit lost. And we're the buffer between that side of the business and your business that I think gives freight forwarders a bit of longevity over time, that we still offer that personal service.
You mentioned when we spoke about the shipping companies, you mentioned the word mafia. I don't want to sort of say that, but the shipping companies do have a lot of control over controlling the shipping lanes, controlling the supply of everything that comes out of the Far East and those sort of things, by, I guess, reducing shipping lanes, so the demand and all these sort of things. So is there big, like, three big shipping, who are the big, obviously Maersk and all this, so who are the big boys, who are the ones that actually control the world of shipping?
The current top three are Maersk, MSC and CMA CGM. They are the big players in the market.
That's the China shipping guys, is it?
CMA is the French shipping line. They are the big players in the market.
Right.
Now, years ago, there used to be something called the conference. So shipping lines were allowed to go into a room together, discuss freight rates, set certain freight rates between themselves.
Okay.
And you used to get a fax through at the time that the freight rates, whether you shipped it with CGM as it was then, Maersk or MSC, the rate would be $3,000. Terminal handling was £69. It was across the board.
Right.
Now, the shipping lines are not allowed to do that. That's been the competition laws, rules, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So shall we say they still don't do that then?
They're not allowed to do that. They can. It's against the law.
Right.
If they do that, if they collaborate and set the market, because that's how it was viewed, that they're setting the market, rigging the market. So that was abolished probably 20 years ago. But ever since that was abolished, you've seen a lot more instability in the freight rates, because it's a little bit of a race to the bottom and a race to the top to get market share. That's what the shipping lines always want to do. And as the vessels have grown, like I said earlier, from 8,000 to 24,000 TEU vessels, there's that necessity to fill those vessels to capacity.
Yeah.
And that's why, as I say, there's a race to the bottom sometimes, that one line will drop their freight rate by $100. Another shipping line will react to that by dropping it $150.
Yeah, I always think, this is just a personal thing, that it's so much easier for companies to pass costs on to the end user.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot harder for us to pass costs on to wholesalers. And I don't know why this is, but it's always been the thing that if it's a geopolitical impact that we have no control over, then we should really be able to react quicker. But I always think that, if you look at buying a coffee or something, if a price goes up, like sometimes prices go up like 10, 20p or whatever, and people think, oh, it's only 10, 20p. But that could be like, 5, 6, 7, 8% of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you don't look at it always from a percentage point of view when you're having a coffee and a cake or whatever it may be. But from my perspective, it's always harder for us to pass on quickly because we have commercial terms that say, I need a month's notice or 2 months' notice. And it just makes it incredibly difficult to be in control of those prices. Now, I know that your big contractors and your end users, and there is a lot of the prices of products when you're looking at raw materials hits quite hard, because obviously copper's gone up massively, impacts brass, steel's fairly okay, but aluminium's gone up, fiberglass gone up. So all these raw materials, which is obviously all an impact from the conflicts and things that are going on, it does hit us quite hard when you're manufacturing products.
Yeah, and if you break it down into the basics in shipping, shipping lines tend to order their vessels 5-6 years in advance of when they want delivery. Raw materials creation of a vessel, steel, and whatever else they use has a big impact on that. Along with the cost of physically making the containers, raw materials still. We've seen shortages of equipment at certain points, which is a constant battle. But we understand that passing on increases is sometimes a bitter pill to swallow. But again, it's easy. We find it's easier when it's circumstances beyond our control, and when the circumstances have been well publicised. Which, if I'd sent a distribution mail to the customer base on the Monday directly after the Middle East conflict started, it would have been a question. What the hell was this all about? Why are you doing that? So I think we left it. I say left it. I think we had to leave it until at least a week to see how it was headed. Before we did that.
But also the way you benefit is it's well publicised, like you just mentioned. So the Maersk increase has been well published. The man in the street would know that shipping's gone up. Petrol's gone up because, and it would just be accepted. And it just seems it always, sometimes I know we take the hit quite a lot, but from my perspective, it's just about, you mentioned earlier about the shipping companies trying to get back to, obviously COVID was ridiculous, and obviously the price of containers was ridiculous, and that was definitely profiteering, absolutely 100%. But I guess from my perspective is, if you're almost fighting against each other, because they're trying to get back to getting all the profitability where they were, and obviously you're trying to get the best price for us, I guess.
No, exactly that. We always have said, part of my pitch whenever I'm sitting in front of a customer that we're trying to win will be, we want to be in this for the long term. So, okay, we could make a quick fortune out of Greenbrook, but we don't want to do that. So we've got integrity there to keep the relationship long term. Where are we now? 12 years or something that we've been working together. So, rather than the quick buck, we always look at it long term, and that's the way that we try to operate most of the time. So with honesty, integrity, we won't manufacture just extra charges out of the air. It will be something that's tangible, something that we can demonstrate to
And you did, like I say, when we go back to COVID and all, you did support us then, and we worked together then to sort. So I do know that, and like I said, I know that we've worked with you a long time. It just makes it harder sometimes to do it. But like I said, I know that, like I said, it was really just to ask you about the shipping companies, because I guess they can just manufacture it to the prices can go up. Simple
supply and demand. It's as I say, if they want to top up their vessels because they're short of filling them up, then of course they're going to be more competitive. But if there's circumstances that prevail that allow them to put the rates up, they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, of course.
And captive audience, from when there was 10 shipping lines, there's probably 7 main shipping lines. 3 or 4 of them are in an alliance. So although they still can't share freight rates, they're in an alliance together.
Yeah.
So there is a limited market to where you can go to get your freight needs.
Of course.
And if they decide that tomorrow they want to implement a $1,000 increase, what do you do? It's a choice of either you do ship or you don't ship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which we, when we were looking at those high freight rates that you were talking about earlier, it was a case of head in hands. How can we put this number over to our customers? And fortunately, most of them did take the choice, and the choice was to carry on shipping if they wanted to stay in business.
Yeah, because you have no choice. That's the thing. So it's difficult. I do understand it, and like I said, we understand it from your perspective. We just got to make sure that we're doing everything that we can as the best way we can to keep the cost. For me, it always goes back to time. I want to get containers as quickly as possible.
Let's hope. Look, as I say, going forward, we will be sure to keep a finger on the pulse if the Arctic route does reopen.
That's what I want.
Yeah, and as I say, I think that we would sell that like hotcakes. I think there would be a lot of people like yourselves in similar situations that would really like to take us up on that. So fingers crossed.
Don't tell too many people.
No.
It's my route. So thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate your time. It's been fantastic learning a lot about shipping. And really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thank you for asking me along, and
That's all right.
Really enjoyed it.
Good, thank you.